With us now in the Situation Room, Chang, a columnist for Forbes.com and author of the book Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World. We also have Yates, who is Deputy Assistant for National Security to Vice President Dick Cheney. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for being with us. And Stephen, starting with you, there are sometimes sanctions and there's not a whole lot of bite to them. And sometimes there are sanctions that go very far. How would you classify these?
I would classify these as basically an initial step. They seem to be modeled somewhat after the approach that was taken against Russia after its taking Crimea from the Ukraine, where we have a narrow list of targets that we're going after. I see some of these entities as important in North Korea, but unlikely would have this kind of a limited list have a strategic impact on Kim Jong-un's calculus.
So then, Gordon, who specifically are we talking about being affected here, and who won't be affected?
Well, the most important target is the General Reconnaissance Bureau, which is a military or semi-military intelligence organization, which included a number of cyber hacking units, including Unit 121 and Lab 110. And that is the main one. There are two other organizations and 10 individuals, but essentially, if we're looking at hacking, the General Reconnaissance Bureau is the most important one.
Okay, and Stephen, when you look at the list of names here that the Treasury Department has put out, they're not associated with the hacking, many of them, some are, but a lot of them are arms dealers stationed in places like Iran and Syria. Why is that? Are these sanctions in part to expose some of these names?
Well, I think in some ways this is a moment of opportunity. There are a number of different challenges that North Korea presents. The Obama administration really hasn't put forward any kind of a comprehensive strategy for what it aims to do in shaping their behavior. And so here we've had a provocation, and maybe they see this as an opportunity to address proliferation and some other kinds of concerns that are not directly related to the cyber hacking. But the biggest name that's not on this list is North Korea's neighbor in China. And what makes this very different from the Russian example and others is that we have an enabler in China with cyber hacking that is akin to what we have with terrorism. And if you don't get at the enabler, you're not really shaping the behavior of the target.
Gordon, when you look at this list of individuals, there are a lot of people who work for Comit. It's North Korea's primary arms dealer. They hold these positions in North Korea. Do we know anything about them? Do any of the names stick out to you?
None of the names really stick out. I mean, some of them are important, but they're not ones that are internationally well known. And I think what the Obama administration is trying to do here is that these sanctions won't be effective, but they're intentionally not effective. They're basically a shot across the bow, hoping that North Korea will not retaliate. And that's going to be a very interesting thing to see over the next weeks and months, because North Korea is probably not going to take this lying down.
Okay, so a shot across the bow. We expect that they're going to react, as you say. Stephen, what do you think? Will they? Well, how will they react to this?
Well, if history is a guide, they will retaliate in some way. I mean, we've had multiple instances of when the North Korean regime is unhappy that they will test a missile, they will fire at an offshore island on the south, they can detonate a nuclear-capable device. They've now, according to the allegations of the FBI, engaged in cyber attacks. There's no reason to believe they wouldn't react if we have gone after their leadership.
And what is the role, if you could quickly tell us, with China and really what China wants to see in what seems to be a back and forth that's going on here?
Well, there's really only been one moment in history when China really used compellence to bring North Korea to negotiations, and that's when we had sanctions on Banco Delta Asia, and we're looking at the Bank of China in Macau. And when China's financial interests were at stake, it used its influence to make North Korea heel. That is the only way we've even ever had indirect impact on North Korea.
And yet, what do you think about whether these sanctions and maybe further actions by the U.S. that we'll see, how this will really affect the situation, sending a message to North Korea that cyber hacking isn't effective if China isn't brought into the equation?
Yeah, China needs to be brought in the equation because more than half of North Korea's cyber warriors are actually based in China. And these attacks against Sony Pictures Entertainment were routed through Chinese IP addresses, which means that Beijing knew what was going on. So that's really a big omission, as Steve points out.
Wow. And do you think, I mean, how concerned, you sort of listed a number of things there, Stephen, a range of things that North Korea could do. How concerned should we be? What do you think the worst thing they could do would be?
Well, it's hard to imagine what the worst thing could be. They're not a regime that's known for going low, they go big. And so I think that we have to be very, very concerned about what this uncertain leadership would do. We're dealing with a guy who, after he took over leadership in North Korea, disappeared for periods of time. We didn't know where he was or what was going on. So with nuclear weapons in the mix, missiles, unstable regime, cyber attacks, it's already a bad mix.
I want to put this question to both of you. Maybe this is nothing, but I know a lot of people have noticed that Kim Jong-un's appearance has altered a little bit lately. His eyebrows have become much narrower. Is there any symbolism to this change in look, or is this just some aesthetic change that we shouldn't read into? What do you think, Gordon?
Yeah, this is important because Kim Jong-un, when he took over in December 2011, was actually fattened up to make himself look like his grandfather, Kim Il-sung, and that derives a lot of legitimacy. So this eyebrow change is important, and I think what it says is that there's some uncertainty and instability in the regime. You got to remember that the New Year's Eve statement from North Korea actually talked about the virtues of killing North Korea's internal enemies. And that's almost an unprecedented statement for the Kim regime, which basically takes the position that everybody in North Korea loves Kim Jong-un.
Wow, that is some sort of message some eyebrows are sending there, Stephen.
It is, but North Korea is unlike any other country on the planet. This is probably the most pulverized polity anywhere in human history. And so we're left in many ways reading tea leaves and these kinds of signals. And unfortunately for the people of North Korea, there's a lot of reality to what Gordon was talking about.
Yeah, this was a great discussion, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Gordon Chang, Stephen Yates, appreciate you both being with us. And next,